Good afternoon and welcome to stage 3 of the Tour de l'Avenir today. As you can see straight on our screens, no messing about, it is the day for the Team Time Trial. Yesterday we had a big bunch sprint, a chaotic stage that was won in fact by the sprinter Riley Pickerel from Canada, but the man that moved into the Maillot Jaune, the yellow jersey. As we see another team just passing through into the finishing here. Slovenia just finishing with a time, didn't quite stop the clock there, of 16 minutes and 30 seconds. Last team off today will be Poland, and the start location for the Team Time Trial today in Watin, and we head towards Issoudun. Distance of this Team Time Trial 26.5 kilometers. Just a little bit of housekeeping in relation to this event that many of you will be familiar with, a few of you may not. 3-minute intervals for the teams here, and it is the fourth rider across the line that counts. So the fourth rider across the line, that would be where the time is taken. And we have 28 teams on the grid today. A couple of non-starters as we look. And another team just rounding the corner. This looks like it is the Norwegians, who started quite early on. Just crossing the time there. We should get confirmation of their time very shortly, but out en route at the moment we are looking at the Canadian team. They set off at 14:45 at local time on this gently undulating course. There's a time check, an intermediate split at 14.5 kilometers in Saint-Valentin. We're in the Indre region of France, pretty much in the center, just above the center, but right in the middle of France now as we continue our way towards the Savoie. 2 good stages done and dusted. 2 Maillot Jaunes and another one up for grabs today. And alongside me for the ride, for this quick ride with the tailwind that we have today, is Jens Dekker. Jens Dekker, this is a really particular discipline, isn't it? It's a difficult one to get right, and not many of these teams would have had too many opportunities to actually get this dialed as a collective unit either.
No, it's a very difficult discipline, even at the professional level, where teams kind of trained together multiple times, and I think most of these riders might have just done one spin together on the time trial bikes, but probably no race-based training. So I did see the Dutch team has done a recon of this course a couple days ago, just traveling towards the start of this race. So that's one of the teams who will have trained together, but most of these teams just coming in with no real experience together. So it's going to be interesting to see if we can pick up on some of the problems that arise from that. But yeah, that's what Team Time Trialing is about.
Yeah, it's about riding. Well, ultimately, because it is the fourth rider that counts, you need to ride at the speed where you can get that fourth rider across the line, not as comfortable as possible, but almost nurturing the rider home. We saw the Team Time Trial in the Vuelta a Burgos the other day. A dress rehearsal for the opening Team Time Trial of the Vuelta. Oh, there's a Team Time Trial that starts off that race, a short one. This is pretty much double the length of that, 26.5 Ks. But again, just in relation to the way this is going to run for the general classification, as we look at the entire complement of the Canadian team, they've got that stage win under their belt yesterday. Riley Pickerel taking the win, just profiting from the Polish rider who ended up finishing on second place on the stage, raising his arms a little bit too early. That was Radoslav Fradchak, put his arms up, but ultimately it was Riley Pickerel with a late lunge that took the win on at the day. Rotem Tene of Israel, the next rider home. We're just going to let the Canadians ride up the road as we look back towards our finish line in Issoudun. Beautiful town here. It's warm day in the centre of France today. It is a rather hot, I think it's fair to say, 33 degrees with that 8km/h wind, which for the vast majority of the day, Jens, will be helping the riders. So it's going to be a particularly quick average speed here for the Team Time Trial.
Yeah, it's not a huge wind for the riders to contend with, but it is going to be quick with that tailwind. There is a small rise at the start. It's not completely flat either. Small rise at the start and then mostly downhill towards the finish, with just this last kick up to about 4% in the last couple hundred meters. I think we could look at the times. There's just 2 teams have finished now, with Norway being the fastest finisher with 29 minutes and 21 seconds. But that intermediate time, they're also the quickest. Canada coming quite close, though, only 11 seconds behind them. So But there's only a couple teams through that intermediate yet, and only 2 teams at the finish, so there's a lot still to come.
Yeah, they'll be on course for just over half an hour, give or take. The next team off the ramp at 15:06 local time. And they should be off the ramp about now, actually, is Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. That is the regional team. Following them, it will be Portugal. The first team off, in fact, were the Slovenian team, and they've already finished along with Norway as well. 2 very strong teams, but a little bit further down the pecking order today. And there's the fastest time at the intermediate split. That is the squad of the Netherlands there with a 15 minute and 56 seconds. So the intermediate split just comes after halfway at 14.5 Ks. As we look at the squad of the Netherlands, still 6 strong. And the crucial thing in a team time trial, I don't know how many you've actually ridden, Jens, but as we know, is to try for as long as you can, keeping as many riders as you can together, especially in one of this sort of distance, because as soon as you start to lose resource, as we look at their Centre Mondial du Cyclisme, crossing the line there. A bit of apologies for the lack of times on our screens. And again, we are running on a relatively limited resource here at the Tour de l'Avenir. It's great to have the race on for its entirety for the very first time, but we are running on a 4G setup, 1 static camera on the finish line, and just a couple of motos out on the course, so there may be gaps in between us seeing the teams. But right now, the squad of the Netherlands look to be moving pretty well.
They are moving really well. They've gained over half a minute in just over 15 minutes on the Norwegian team, and even more on all the other teams. So it's a 15:56 at the intermediate for the Netherlands, and then 16:29 for Norway. Canada coming in just behind that, and all the other teams a bit further behind. But the Netherlands look like they're going really fast, starting fairly early, of course, due to that crash yesterday. A couple of riders losing time. The Norwegian team had all of their riders in that crash, so that's why they're off that early. It's wreaked havoc, that crash, I think. Lots of riders on the ground, and a few riders, important riders as well, losing time.
Yeah, we've got a couple of considerable talents that have not started. Max Walker of the GB team didn't start today, the rider that finished inside the top 10 in the Under-23 World Championships, as the clock continues to tick here for the squad from the Netherlands. And also Jonathan Verven of Belgium. So the Belgian team already down to just 4 riders, and that could considerably affect their ability to perform well in the time trial. But we touched on it yesterday as we continued to dwell on the very neatly drilled tight unit of the Netherlands, that there are some idiosyncratic rules here in relation to the team time trial. Of course, the fastest team wins. 4th man across the line for each team is done. As we just see, one of the riders pulling off. His job there is done. That's Kramer. Jesse Kramer did a big pull on the front as we head towards the back end of this team time trial. That looks to me, before we go on to the rules, as we're focusing on the team here, that looks to me pretty predetermined. That was one extra long pull before he swung off to the side there, Jens.
Yeah, there was no getting onto the back of that team for Kramer anymore. But these 5 riders still working really well together. There's less than 10 minutes to go for them if they are going to set a good time. And it looks like they are, because they've had the fastest time at the intermediate. And it doesn't look like there's any problems for them. Just a tactical choice to have Kramer pull off, go a little bit harder in the first 20 minutes, and then just ride into the finish. And I think they're here with the goal of winning the stage.
It certainly looks like it. As you said, fastest at the first intermediate split, ahead of Norway. And the best part of, well, 35 seconds quicker than the Norwegian squad. They have taken a fair chunk of time. But just back to the rules here, and we discussed them a little bit yesterday, although I've done a further deep dive. The 4th rider counts, but no team, if you are part of the squad that finished, if you are one of the 4 riders that finishes for any team, no team can lose more than 2 minutes. So the losses are capped at 2 minutes for any team. But if you are the 5th or the 6th rider who isn't in contact with the 4th rider, you will get your own time, and you will have that time for the general classification. But you still risk being eliminated, and the time cut today is 25% of the winner's time. So just to recap that, first 4 riders to finish, the 4th rider, the time is taken. So basically the 4th rider there, everyone there gets the same time. And that fourth rider now cannot lose any more time than 2 minutes than the fastest team in the race. So you could actually get a top 10 that have spread over 2 minutes, and between 10th and the 28th teams, everybody's on the same time basically, but as long as you finished within the 4 riders, if you know what I mean. I think hopefully I've got that across as clearly as I can.
Yeah, it's a complicated rule, but we just saw an update to the intermediate times. Belgium with the second time just 2 seconds behind the Netherlands, so they're going quickly as well. They are one of the favorites, but only starting with 4 riders, losing Gilles Gelders yesterday and now Jonathan Vervenne this morning not starting. So 4 riders, that's a pretty serious disadvantage. But they haven't lost anything, it seems, because that first intermediate is pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a very impressive ride. And you do factor in they're going to be exceptionally depleted in resource. Most teams here, of course, starting with 6. 1 or 2 have actually started with 5, but already there are a couple that are severely reduced in number. And the Belgians are, of course, one of those squads just down to 4. But that just shows, had they had the other 2 riders, although it's academic now, they would have definitely pushed the Netherlands for the fastest time. But still time to pull it round. But considering that the Netherlands are now down to 5, just that one extra rider can make it so much difference. There's a longer period of time to recover, but you can also spend a little bit more time on the front or do these short, ever so slightly shorter pulls, but keeping the speed nice and high. As you see, another one of our teams banking in to this final corner. It looks like this is going to be the squad. If you just get the colours, it could be Ireland coming in. Yeah, it is the Irish squad, 4 strong, coming into the finish there. And again, we'll get the time up for you in a moment. They all click the buttons on their head units, and the team time trial for the Irish squad is done and dusted. We'll get you their times as soon as we can, but 4 strong for the Irish team. They were a little bit down at the first intermediate split. Well, there we go. It's going to take some acceleration to get back in contact with the Belgians, because Jens, these guys are absolutely flying. They've started with 4, they've got to finish with 4, so they'll be hoping that they're all relatively even matched. In a situation like this, the last thing you want is one rider that's particularly suffering, and that's when teamwork really comes into play. And I think it's fair to say that if you are not a great day, the team time trial can be one of the most brutal disciplines to take part in, because you just cannot dictate what's going on at all. It's all about turning yourself inside out and suffering.
Yeah, I think looking at the Belgian team, there is one rider there who's likely to suffer. Their GC man, William Junior Lesser. He's just a small climber. He's really good uphill, but probably slightly less suited to this slight downhill run towards the finish, which they're on right now, as we see one of the Irish riders coming in slightly behind his teammates. But the rest of the Belgian team, Alex Segaert, the European time trial champion in the under-23s, and Wout van Mechelen and Lars Kraps are really solid classics riders. So it's going to be hard for the climber to hang on to this, but they don't really have a choice. The 4th rider across the line counts. So even if one of them would have a mechanical problem, they'll have to wait. It's that's the difficulty of this situation. Time trial on the 3rd day. A couple of riders already out of the race, makes it very difficult for a team that's already lost a few riders.
So there is the updated time check, and here are the Canadians just coming through. One rider just off the back there. Again, we just heard that Riley Pickrell was in that little unit. And actually, they've only just lost a couple of the riders in the final, so they would have ridden for the vast majority of the day with 6 riders helping keep that average speed nice and high. But meanwhile, this is the formation of the 4 remaining Belgian riders. And as you said, they're in a difficult situation here. Quite often, or it can be the case, should I say, that the rider that's eyeing the GC, if they're a lighter climber, can actually really suffer, but the other riders really need to make sure they look after each other. A lot of communication goes on as well here, but remember there's no radios allowed in the team time trial, as Leclerc just jumps on to the back wheel there. A proper team time trial formation here. Looks like they're probably going to be doing about 20 or 30 seconds on the front, and some of the stronger riders especially on these flat, ever so slightly downhill sections. Might be doing longer turns than that over this sort of distance.
Yeah, here we see one of the Mexican riders, and that's an issue because the Mexican team crossed the line quite a while ago, and I assume they're not going to have the best time. They haven't got the best time. In fact, they're already 2 minutes behind on Norway, and Norway will not even have the best time at the end of the day. And with that time limit, was it 25%?
Yeah.
I think it was going to be about 7 minutes, maybe slightly over that, depending on how fast the teams actually go. But 7 minutes is not that much to lose, and if you're dropped from your team, you can in fact lose time in the GC as well. But even worse than that, you could be outside the time limit. But here's the Netherlands.
Well, the Netherlands crossed the line. A little bit of a gap there to the fourth rider. Those last few surges, seeing riders just losing the wheel. The key for the team time trial, if you can, is to keep everybody as close together so you're not spread. There's no point in the rider in front surging clear because the time isn't taken until the fourth rider crossed the line. So as well as being a skillful discipline and a hard discipline, you need to keep together. And it's one of the best illustrations of teamwork, because you're only as strong as your weakest rider, basically. You're only as fast, should I say, as your weakest rider in a situation like this. And especially when you're younger, you can quite often end up in a team time trial situation where there's riders almost with a point to prove, but that can be quite unhelpful. So if there's somebody that's a lot stronger than another, it's not about making it faster. They might just spend a little bit more time on the front, and keeping that speed as smooth as possible, especially on the uphill sections, is really a fine art. And when you see a team completely getting it dialed, it's super impressive to watch.
We've got a timing update with the Netherlands coming across the finish line in 28 minutes and 45 seconds. That is considerably quicker than the Norwegian team, just under a minute quicker, but we are waiting for that Belgian team to come across the line.
Apologies for the little bit of picture breakup. But yeah, that is a very quick time by their squad from the Netherlands, 28.45, as you said. The Canadians came through in 29.51, so well over a minute. That rate of pace for the first half continued through to the second half, so the team from the Netherlands maintained that very high average speed. The Germans have come through in third place at the intermediate split with a 16.12. And it looks like we're going to see another team finishing very shortly. It will in fact be, should be the Belgians next up. There we go. Slightly loud sign of the moto, and the unmistakable sight here of the team from the United States of America. Luc Lamperty, Matthew Riccicello, Ian Lopez de San Roman, Brodie McDonald, Artem Schmidt and Colby Simmons. That is the United States team. Again, apologies for a little bit of the picture break up here as the moto waits for yet another team to pass by. The team that followed the team of the United States of America will actually be the Spanish team, so they may be the next team that we see on the road.
Ooh, the crash in the final corner.
Well, he needs to get up quick. Remember, he's the fourth man to cross the line, so he's obviously a little bit dazed here, and he's limping across the line. Well, this is where the time is going to be taken. That is not good to see. This young lad is in a state of distress, and he can hardly walk his bike across the line here. What a shame. Never nice to see. Now, this is going to be interesting for the rules here, because he's not going to be able to get any assistance. He needs to walk himself across the line with his bike in hand, and that's why he's holding onto his bike. He's taken off his head unit. The clock still hasn't stopped. His chain is off. Well, that is something you do not see very often. That lad still has not crossed the line, and he needs to get a little bit of medical attention there just to make sure he's okay, because he hit the barriers at very high speed there. Not good to see at all. And as a result, they've dropped. Well, they haven't actually given them the time yet. The Netherlands still the quickest, Norway second, Ireland third, and the Centre Mondial de Cyclisme, the UCI, are there in fourth place at the moment. That is a respectable time, but that was an awful crash coming into the corner there, Jens.
Yeah, awful crash. We of course hope the rider is okay, but it's actually going to be quite interesting to see what they do with that, because the fourth rider across the line, that is the case, but there is also a rule there, and I'm going to have to look it up. But I think there is a rule that an incident in the last kilometer will not result in any time loss. But if that's the fourth rider across the line, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that.
Yeah,
it's going to be up to the commissaires to decide that one.
yeah.
I'm not going to speculate, but just be aware that possibility might be there, that they just give the time of the third rider across the line there because of the incident in the final couple meters.
And I think, given the fact it was so very close to the line, clearly rider error, but the fact that that lad picked himself up when he should have really received immediate medical attention, he was clearly dazed and confused. I hope that the commissaires do take the time for the third rider there. That would be a shame for the Belgians, but first and foremost is the health and safety of these riders as we head out onto the course. And this is the Japanese team, and it shouldn't be too long before they're coming into the finish. Actually, they started just 3 minutes behind the Belgian squad. They've already finished, but already they're on the outskirts of the town of Issoudun in this beautiful Indre region of France. The River Thiois coming through. This is our first glimpse of this rather technical run into the line here. I don't think the Japanese are going to trouble the time of the Belgians, but they are down to just 4 riders here.
It does sort of look like there's one rider who's currently at the front still on a road bike, so I don't know if that's been an issue or if there's just a rider without a time trial bike. But they've actually done quite a good time at the intermediate, less than a minute behind the Netherlands. And even beating the likes of Ireland in the World Cycling Centre. And there we see the time at the finish. It's a really strong time by Belgium.
That is impressive. Now, they've clearly taken it on the... one would imagine on the third rider to cross the line there, because they were very evenly matched at the intermediate sprint, at the intermediate split, should I say. But they have made it by just 1 second. The Netherlands now into second place with a 28.45, as you can see. Norway 29.21, and Ireland just behind them, as we look at the team of Spain, already down to 4 riders as well. In fact, 5 riders. One was hidden. They were riding that tight as a unit. One of the riders was actually hidden. The Diaz Zabala, a former professional rider himself. And at the moment, they are looking pretty good. Very close to each other's wheels. A couple on the skis at the back. And you can really tell, can't you, from this angle, the riders that spend more time on a TT bike than others, can't you?
Yeah, just seeing 2 riders not on the extensions there, that's not a great sign for the Spanish team. I don't think we were looking at the Spaniards to as favourites for this team time trial, but they definitely want to keep their GC hopes up in the general classification, so it's up to them not to lose too much time.
And they were down to 5 riders before the start today. They lost Unai Asnar ahead of today's stage. It's Sergio Gutierrez, Fernando Tercero, Ivan Romeo. Watch out for Ivan Romeo as one of the riders for the overall, as we see the team of Japan cross the line. Fourth man crosses there, all as a collective. It's a pretty nasty finish, that, really, isn't it? That's a very short finishing straight, and as we saw, the only team to have come to grief was indeed the Belgians, carrying that much speed into that right-hander. Ever so slightly overcooked it. But the several teams, it was quite an attritional day with the crashes that we saw, but we're seeing now one of the teams actually being caught. Now, that's a couple of the Japanese riders who are still out on the road, who are now being caught by the team of Germany. There's the Germans who won the team time trial in last year's Tour de l'Avenir.
Yeah, they did win last year. It doesn't look, based on the intermediate, like they're going to do the same this year, but they have passed some of the Japanese riders. It's good to see those Japanese riders sticking together, trying to help each other across the line in respectable time, trying to avoid that time limit, because you really don't want to be outside the time limit on this kind of stage. So 2 riders sticking together, it's a good sign of some teamwork going on.
It's already interesting. There's already a 3-minute spread. Mexico, the 8th team to have finished. They've got the slowest time at the moment, 31.54, just in front of Slovenia. The leading time at the moment, Belgium, 28.44. And that means at the moment, if Belgium were to stay the leaders of this race, and that is a possibility, they have an exceptionally good team. As we look at the German squad coming into that right-hander, let's hope they don't overcook it. Straight round the bend, efficiently, smoothly, and without incident. The Germans crossed the line, but as you said, they weren't really troubling the intermediate split earlier on, which is a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, of course, you have to imagine last year they had a couple of riders who've moved up to the elites now, with most notably Michel Hessmann, who finished second overall and who was recently in the news with a possible doping violations announced by the team of Jumbo-Visma, the team he rides for. Yeah, losing a rider like that, a strong time trialist, that's not going to be great for the team performance. And I think they've brought some younger riders in to replace him, but that's going to, you know, develop in the next couple of years, and they'll probably be up there in the coming years as well if this team time trial exists in this stage race in a couple of years' time.
No, definitely watch out, as you say, for their leader, really, Hannes Wilsch, exceptionally talented rider. As we wait for the next team to arrive. 28 teams. The last team off today will be Poland. They come off at 15. They'll be off the ramp at 15:48 local time in Vata. Heading south and then in an easterly direction today. And if you looked at Issoudun on the map of France, you can pretty much drop a pin right in the centre. We're in the Val de Loire. The town of Issoudun was previously known as Issoudun. Actually, it's known locally by both names, apparently, Issoudun and Issoudun, as we get confirmation of the slender lead that Belgium had their 1 second advantage over the squad from the Netherlands. And 29:01, the German team, so a very respectable ride by the Germans. Won't be repeating the success of 2022. Again, apologies for the lack of sight of riders. We are running on a limited resource here, so we'll catch the teams when we can. Another next team to finish should be the squad from Luxembourg, Colombia, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, the local squad, Portugal, Czech Republic, USA. We've already caught a glimpse of the United States team. Spain, Switzerland, Austria, Australia, Kazakhstan, Great Britain, Israel, Italy, France, Denmark, and Poland. That is the order today. 3-minute splits separating these teams. The last team off at 12 minutes to 4 local time. And looking at and here we go. This is the Swiss team, introduced nicely for us, unmistakable in that kit of theirs. And it looks like they have everybody still intact. Strong team. Expect pretty decent result, but right now they're looking good. We've got Arnaud Tindon, Daniel Schoenberger, Jan Christian, as you see, one of the German riders who was jettisoned earlier on, rolling across the line, looked utterly spent there. And back to the Swiss squad. Michael Albertini, been a pro for a very, very long time, a long and successful career. So much experience passed on from the team car to these young riders. But Fabio Christian, Robin Dons, and Ella Blum, that is your Swiss lineup. As we look at the next teams across the line, it will be the squad of Luxembourg. 4 riders strong, already got a man in the breakaway on day 1. As they cross the line, get confirmation of their time shortly. No King of the Mountains points available today, so Loic Bettendorf will be still safely in that jersey. But the Swiss team already, just looking at the kit, just looking at the way they're assembled as a unit, again, Jens, it gives us an indication of the materials and the backing available to certain teams as well, doesn't it, in terms of the infrastructure available to these younger riders too.
Yeah, and I think for Switzerland, a lot of these riders have been fortunate enough to race for the Tudor development team that's been set up recently. So I think looking at this team, they might not have too much individual talent necessarily that really rises above the hayfield, but I think as a unit they're really well matched. They're really strong together as a team, and it's one of the teams we can look for, maybe without that standout rider who's going to pull the whole team towards the finish. But with so many riders that are just good enough to do the same pace as one team with just one really strong rider and a couple riders just sitting on the wheel. I do think Jan Kirsten is the most maybe talented rider on this team, but he's still quite young and maybe not a pure specialist in the time trial either. But as a unit, I think they're working really, really well together at the moment.
Yeah, they look really good, tight, benefiting from that tailwind at the moment. And they really are sitting tight on the wheel there. That's the key in a team time trial, is just trying to stay as close to the rider in front as you can, very much like you would in a bunch or in a breakaway, but it's made that little bit more technical by the fact that they are on these extensions. And if you spend a lot more time on your TT bike, you just get more used to the way it handles exceptionally different to a road bike, of course. Cornering on the skis is an art form in itself. You've also got to be aware of the wind with a solid disc wheel at the back. But it's just the way they hand into the corners, the way your body weight is distributed over the bike is so different, Jens, isn't it? It really is something that we see the big Grand Tour contenders spending multiple hours every week, especially ahead of the Grand Tours, because the time trialing discipline is so massively important. So another Luxembourg rider just crosses the line as we get confirmation that it is Belgium that still lead, 28.44. The team from the Netherlands in second there with a 28.45. Germany with a 29.01. Norway, Luxembourg moving into the top five. Now that is a very solid performance by that team. Just a minute and 2 seconds behind. And then Canada there currently sit in sixth place with a 29.51. So the crowd sit and wait in this beautiful sunshine here. Another rider just coming through with the van just behind. Let's hope this rider didn't suffer from a crash. Weaving all over the road. It looks like it is, in fact, one of the German riders there. Get confirmation of that. The German started with a full complement today. Currently sitting up there. Pretty decent time. Third with a 16.12. But the next team to finish should be Colombia. And then the local team, well, say the local team, the regional team of Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes will be next up. So Colombia will be the next squad to finish. And here they are coming in through to the finish. It looks like they've lost one of their number. With a pretty tight little foursome coming through to the line here. The last sprint, nice and tight. That's what you want to see. Everybody linked together, no gaps, or no discernible gaps between the wheels there. So a good, solid, disciplined ride there by the Colombian team as we look to the awful situation that just happened about 15 minutes ago when the Belgian team came to grief. One rider hit the barriers, but despite that crash, incredibly, as you can see, Belgium still leading the team time trial in stage 3 of the Tour de l'Avenir. So still a lot of teams to finish in this race. Last team off, Poland. Of course, head the general classification. Michał Pomorski on the first stage of this race finished in the front group. Finished on 4th place when we finished in Gassy up in Brittany. Started the opening stage of the 59th edition of this race in Carnac. He was part of the breakaway that just stayed away to the line and was one of 3 riders from that original breakaway that finished in the front split today. In fact, he finished in 16th place yesterday, but that was enough, given the 6-second time gap that they enjoyed on the opening stage, to move him into the yellow jersey. So they will be the last team off today. What can they do? I think there might be some changes today. The Polish have a strong team. As we look now at another squad out on the road, this is the Austrian team. well on their way now. So the opening few kilometres, just an exceptionally fast section of road. Moving along well in excess of 55 k's an hour here by the looks of things. So the Austrian squad fully dialed in formation in the early part of their team time trial. And the Australians will follow them, then the squad from Kazakhstan, then the depleted team of Great Britain. Max Walker not starting. Big shame for the British team. Not too sure exactly what happened to Max, but there were several riders not starting today. Clearly it must have been because of the big crash we had with about 10 kilometres to go. There's an enormous split in the peloton. It was out of sight of our cameras. Peloton eventually knitted itself back together, but there were several riders, or more than several riders, who were caught behind. And clearly, many of those have succumbed to their injuries and have not started again today. So next team through, this should be the Auvergne Alps Rhône team, or Portugal. Let's have a little look. This is the Rhône team. Very disciplined ride by the looks of things. Only lost one rider on the run-in, so the 5th rider there, taking the same time as the 4th, of course. We'll get confirmation of their time very shortly.
It's interesting to see, actually, there with one of the riders losing contact. I don't think they did the best time, so we're probably going to see the Auvergne-Rhône team losing 2 minutes, and then that one rider losing much more time, even much more than the time he lost on the road, due to that weird rule that we've got.
Exactly. No, as you said, anybody outside of the 4th rider, or if it happens to be, well, the 4th rider takes the time, but anybody outside of that time will get their own time, as you say. So the time of the team plus the 2 minutes outside of the 2 minutes. So it is quite strange. So what you're trying to say, Jens, is that you could just finish 2 or 3 seconds behind your team, or behind the 4th rider, but then lose the best part of a minute and a half, let's say, if your team lost 3.5 minutes, rather than just losing 2. So it's everybody knows the rules. I hope they do anyway. I hope their directors, sportifs and road captains have studied that rule. But what it does mean, as we look again at the situation at the top, still the Belgians lead by 1 second from the team from the Netherlands. And a further 16 seconds back, we have the team of Germany. And what it does mean is it just keeps things, it means the race isn't over. I do understand it, as complicated as it might be, especially for the riders just finishing off the back of the 4th riders across the line, without wanting to bog us down too much. What it does do, it leaves the race. You could really, if a team lost 3 or 4 minutes, because they weren't, for whatever reason, but you have a GC rider in there, it basically does nullify potentially the last few stages of this race. So it's trying to keep things together, as we see the squad coming through now. And this is Portugal just crossing the line. It should be a pretty decent team. They were certainly less than 3 minutes behind the Auvergne-Rhône Alps team. Next up will be the Czech Republic. Looks to be a pretty decent ride by the Portuguese team. Remember, they've got Antonio Morgado amongst their number. Finished runner-up in the Under-23 World Road Championships back in Scotland, so a real talented rider. So they definitely, you would imagine, have their eyes on possible, or at least possible stage wins, or some of the punchier stages, as we take a look at the Kazakh team.
Yeah, we got an update from the intermediate time with the 3rd time on the road for Spain. Just looking at, I think, 11 seconds behind the Dutch team at the intermediate, so they're right up there. And the Dutch team did seem to slow down a little bit towards the end of the race, so I think there is a chance there if Spain has paced this well for them to be up there at the finish.
It certainly looks to be the case. And the Spanish team, they've had a pretty decent record in this race. And just going back to the importance of the Tour de l'Avenir as a proving ground for young talent. This is, Tour de l'Avenir literally means the race of the future. We've had 7 riders in the past since this race began back in 1961 who've gone on to win the Tour de France as well. The first being Felice Gimondi, We've also had Jopa Zoetemelk, Miguel Indurain, Laurent Fignon, Greg LeMond, Egan Bernal, and more recently Tadej Pogacar. They're the 7 riders who have gone on to win the Tour de France, and collectively between them they've actually won 15 editions of the Tour de France. So the race relatively young, I would say, compared to the Tour, of course, but 59 editions. Missed a couple of editions over the years, including 2020 for obvious reasons, but it's great to have this race back and for the first time on our screens. And I will, as I've done every other day so far as well, let you know that the first ever Tour de l'Avenir for the under-23 women will begin after this race as well. So for the very first time on the 28th of August, running to the 1st of September, we have the women's Tour de l'Avenir as well, which is wonderful news. As we look at the Kazakh team, still in full formation, got 6 riders strong. The 2 sons of one of the most famous Kazakh riders, controversial as well, Alexander Vinokourov. Nicholas Vinokourov and Alexandra Vinokourov both ride for the Astana development team and live and train in the roads of Monaco. So spend a lot of time in France, train up in the Nice area, and they're both representing their country in this year's Tour de l'Avenir. And we're actually in the breakaway. It was Alexandra Vinokourov Jr. that was in the break yesterday, took the mountains points before dropping back sensibly, I think it's fair to say, to the peloton behind. Now, the Australians normally are exceptionally good at this discipline, and it's very early days here, Jens, but the Australians already look pretty well drilled here, don't they?
Yeah, they look to be working together. No real standout riders, though, so it's curious to see where they're going to end up. I don't think they've been really touted as some of the real favourites for this discipline, this stage today. But we'll see where they end up. Graphic showing Ireland, I don't think that's quite correct. But yeah, this is the Australian team. Just a couple more updates from the intermediate. Pretty quick time by Switzerland in 4th place, just behind Spain. Just 14 seconds off the time of the Netherlands, and the United States coming in I think 7th place, but just over half a minute behind. But we'll get more of those times coming through shortly.
Again, apologies for the lack of graphics on the screen for us. Still the Belgians lead by that 1 solitary second. That really was close, and they clearly have counted the time from the 3rd rider, because it was the best part of half a minute, 3/4 of a minute, that it took the unfortunate, as yet unidentified rider who came off on the last corner to actually cross the line. But as you say, it looks like they've practiced that rule. If there is an incident in the last kilometre, they'll be given the same time. But again, we'll see what happens. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of flexibility in relation to that rule. Some rules are at the discretion of the race organisers, but given they're only just a few metres from the line, I think it's fair. As we wait with bated breath for the next team to cross the line.
Yeah, we're just looking at the Australian team. They've come in 5th place with a time of 16 minutes and 11 seconds at the intermediate time. So also pretty close, 15 seconds behind the leading team at the intermediate.
Yeah, that's a pretty decent team performance so far by the Australians. And importantly, they still have collective strength as well. If you're pretty evenly matched, you can hold on to riders for a little bit longer. It just means, as I said before, you can get that little bit more of an opportunity to rest up. And you can also do shorter turns on the front. If you could do a slightly shorter turn on the front, it generally means you can keep that pace just a little bit higher. You see another team coming in to the final. This looks like it's going to be the team of the United States of America. 4 riders as they round that final little corner there, safely through, thank goodness. And the clock stops. And the final rider across the line, they look like Colby Simmons. Well, that's for the under-23 Jumbo-Visma team. And right out on the road now, it is the squad of Great Britain. Lucas Nurikar, Joseph Blackmore, Josh Golliker. No Max Walker, unfortunately. He failed to start today. Rob Donaldson and Jack Rudkin-Gray. Again, I'm expecting good things. John Herity, the manager of this team, a former manager of me back in the day for his sins. More of that later. But we were going to leave the GB team to ride on into the distance, and the next team that we'll see on the road are the team of Israel. Had a good ride yesterday. superb collective performance on the stage finish. Didn't quite pull off the stage win, but third and fourth shows they've got two of the best sprinters in the race, Jens.
Yeah, it certainly does, but there's not too many sprint stages coming up from now on. There's a couple of hill stages, and then we are into the mountains. So I think the sprinters' days are sort of numbered. Let's see if they can hold on for the rest of the race. But this is sort of the last flat-ish day, and then from tomorrow onwards, we'll see some hill stages.
A few more teams to take to the ramp. Italy. So Israel will be on the road already. We're not seeing the teams on the starting line, but we've got Israel. We saw GB. Israel are out on the road, as are Italy. France are also out on the road. Denmark, and in 2 or 3 minutes' time, the last team will actually take to the start ramp, Poland. So they're off at 12 minutes to 4 local time. So that means they've only got a couple more minutes before all of the teams are out on the road. And then in around half an hour following that, we'll know who's going to move in to the new Maillot Jaune. Right now, Belgium lead the rankings, a superb time of 28 minutes and 44 seconds. The team of the Netherlands in second there, just 1 second shy, 28.45. Then we have the Germans, Norwegians, Luxembourg, and a solid performance as well, moving themselves into 6th place there from the United States of America, just 1 minute and 2 seconds behind the speeding quartet of Belgians. So, that was the hot seat, or the interview seat. Well, there's Spain just crossing the line here. Couldn't quite catch the time of the Spaniards. Yeah,
Czech. Spain was strong at the intermediate, just a few seconds behind the Netherlands, so we expect a good time from them. We're just curious to see where they end up exactly, but we'll get that time coming through in a couple minutes, probably.
Yeah, the Austrian team have actually posted a good intermediate time as well, only 2 seconds behind the Australians, so that's a very good time, should I say, from the Austrians at the intermediate split. And the Swiss posted 16.10 as well, as the last of our Americans just crosses the line there. Looks like we're going to pick up the Kazakh squad for a period of time. Still their full complement of riders. Andrei Remk, Yegor Strelnikov, also there Ikam Dositeyev, Maxim Dadiskin, and then we have the brothers Nicholas and Alexandra Vinokurov, but still the full complement here, all looking pretty well drilled in the early stages of their team time trial, or the earlier stage of the team time trial, should I say.
Yeah, so we got the time from Spain, 29 minutes 11 seconds. That's 4th place, so they lost a little bit to the German team in the run-in, and there's a lot of teams in the intermediate very close together there. I think that's but yeah, there we get the confirmation on screen. But there are 6 teams, I think, within 5 seconds at the intermediate, just behind the Netherlands and Belgium. In that sort of 3rd to 7th region, there's a lot of teams close together, so it's really going to be decided in the final.
It certainly is. And just remember, it is Mikhail Pomorski that leads this race as we look at the squad of Israel for the first time on our screens. With that 3rd and 4th place yesterday. But as you were saying, it's all about their riders. Well, the terrain certainly changes from tomorrow. We just get punchy stage after punchy stage, and then it morphs into a mountain race towards the last few days, including an individual time trial. Over the 8 days of this race, we have 9 stages. Saturday's stage is split into 2. An individual time trial followed by a very hilly but short mountain stage. That's going to be a very intense day of racing, an intriguing one to watch. Not maybe so nice to ride, but Israel right now working well as a unit, but only doing pretty short turns on the front. There you can see one man dropping down very quickly indeed down the line, but all moving pretty good, pretty decently. As you see, the Swiss team cross the line. They posted a good intermediate split. Belgium still leading. Let's have a look at what the time will be for the Swiss. Kazakhstan have posted 16.45 at the first intermediate split, so that's a good 30 seconds down on some of the fastest teams. Spain, as you were saying earlier on, Jens, 29.11, 10 seconds quicker than the Norwegians. really get the sense of the pace that they're riding at here in the Team Time Trial. Very quick. With that little bit of a tailwind and then a tail crosswind to the finish line. The wind has thankfully changed direction ever so slightly from yesterday, then a nagging headwind for the vast majority of the day on the stage that took us to Chinon as we continue our route through the centre of France from the northwest down into the southeast. So we start this race in Brittany and we end up in the Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region of the race. The terrain shifts as we move through this beautiful countryside, but a warm day today. Very sunny and hot conditions. And the hot conditions, especially in these, not so much the skin suits, but in these helmets, the riders can get very hot and build up that heat. And it's still the team of Belgium that are leading, but a good time there, Jens, from the Swiss. 28.54, only 10 seconds shy.
Yeah, really good time. Not enough for the win today, and with a couple more teams coming up, maybe not even enough for the podium. But it's a strong time, and if we're looking at GC, they've got at least one rider who is looking decent for GC, and it's not a lot of time lost for the riders from the Swiss national team. So that keeps them in contention for the overall, and I think that's probably a good thing that we don't see too many big gaps coming into that final weekend with big man stages.
Yeah, just looking at the GB team here, still looking good. 5 riders strong. Didn't start with Max Walker today, unfortunately, but still 5 exceptionally gifted riders with their eyes on the general classification here as well, especially with Lucas Nurkart, an exceptionally gifted climber, rides for Trinity Racing. Jack Root-Kincray also in the mix there, 4th in the recent under-23 World Championships held in Glasgow, Scotland, and under the tutelage of the very experienced team manager John Herity. He's been around the scene for many years, spent a period of time on the continent riding the pro scene, former British champion as well, and also a very decent chef. I'm not sure he'll be cooking these guys dinners every day, but a very good cook as well is Mr. John Herity. But the GB team so far looking good, looking dialed, and importantly looking tight. That's one thing about the Team Time Trial, you have to keep those gaps nice and tight. And as we look at the Austrians now crossing the line.
Austrians crossing the line, they had 16:11 at the intermediate time, which was the 6th time, and that's the exact same time that the British team just posted. So they're right up there, not quite there for the win probably, but they are definitely in the mix. With a lot of teams just running sort of around that 16:10 mark at the intermediate, so they are about 15 seconds behind at the intermediate, but that could still all change in the second half of this Team Time Trial.
It does. Again, we knew the Belgians were capable of posting a good time, but the fact that they're already down to 4 riders at the very start just shows how good a collective unit they are. That is enormously impressive, whatever way you slice it. Starting with 4 riders on a course this long. I wouldn't say this is a super long Team Time Trial, but it's not a short one either. 26.5 Ks is a real stern test with that drag up at the start, a little bit of a climb, and then dropping down, and a little bit of a kick up to the finish. So where you see the finish line, where it swings round to the right, it is actually up a short climb, or a drag, should I say, for the best part of a kilometre. It's important that everybody stays in contact for as long as possible, especially that 4th man, remember. Well, this is a good study of what it takes to ride an effective Team Time Trial. Again, it looks like one of the riders there, well, they're all on TT boats. I thought for a second, as we look at Italy, one of the GB riders was on a road bike, but it was my mistake. And now it's the turn of Italy, or it's the turn of us to see the Italian squad out on the road. They sit with the rider in 2nd place overall, Giacomo Villa. So, just looking at the GC and how many riders in the mix. So we got first 5 riders spread, first 4 riders spread over just 6 seconds. And then we have, it's the top 75 riders spread over 6 seconds basically. And then 76th place, pretty much half of the field are then at well over a minute, coming in at 6 and 7s after the difficult day we had yesterday. Just trying to see who the first place Belgian rider might be, and it's Vlad van Melken, but he's out of the race. No, he's still in the race actually. It's Verven who's out, and Gilles Gelders, he is the best placed rider from Belgium at the moment. So all could come down to this. And as we look at the Italian squad, all looking good at the moment. What kind of time can they set early on? But they've got their full complement, and the longer they can keep this together, the better.
Yeah, we do know the time that Austria just set at the finish line, 28:57, which is really close to the podium, but not quite on their fourth place. And this is the Australian team, which was also right up there, just 2 seconds quicker than Austria at the intermediate time. So we do expect Australia to be very close to the podium at the finish line at the moment. A couple teams still coming in, but it's looking pretty good for Austria, and also we're expecting for Australia. And just another update, not as good a time for Israel with 16:50 at the intermediate. That's I'll have to count how many places that is down, but it's not in the top 10 anyway.
No. Yeah, Italy the fourth from last team on the road. The team approximately 3 minutes behind them will be France. And then we have Denmark, and then Poland. Anders Foldager, their previous yellow jersey wearer, he'll be in green. I'm not too sure that he'll actually be wearing the green jersey today for the Team Time Trial. Most likely he'll be in his Danish skin suit, but does lead outright the green jersey competition. And then, of course, Poland with the last team off, with the race leader Michał Pomorski. And Frecsak, well, and the day to forget from him, still a solid second place, but certainly not in the fashion he'd have wanted it to be. Put his arms up, 5 meters to go, and was out-lunged, outpaced by Riley Pickrell. And plies his trade for the Israel Premier Tech Continental team. And a fine victory from the Canadian. But the Italians at the moment, Jens, still looking pretty decent, aren't they? Keeping it nice and tight and still have their full complement.
Yeah, pretty solid team. I think they don't really have those pure time trials. They've got a lot of really solid climbers in their team, but working together well, and hopefully for them setting a good time. We just got an update from the finish line with Australia setting the equal third time, same time as the Swiss team, just 10 seconds behind Belgium. Here we get the update, but they do give Australia in third place, so just outpacing Swiss by a couple milliseconds probably.
Indeed, just fractions of seconds there, as you said. Belgium still leading though, just ahead of the Netherlands by 1 solitary second. 9 seconds further back. That was a very decent time by the Australians to put them into third right now. Switzerland, Austria, Germany, Spain, Norway, Luxembourg and the United States of America rounding out the top 10. A minute and 2 seconds separating them. So all of the top 10 teams pretty evenly matched, relatively speaking. As you see, another rider just coming in to finish his time trial. Fighting all the way. Remember, the time cut does apply to riders' distance. That's one of the Australian riders. As we head back to the team of Israel now. Still looking good here. Still 6 riders strong. Again, massively important here. As you just see, that's the hardest bit of a team time trial quite often, isn't it? You've done your turn at the front. You're dropping down the back, and then you've got to find that little spike in power just to latch back on as last man.
Yeah, it's one of the most difficult things in cycling. I can't say I've done many team time trials at this level, but I've certainly done a few in the youth categories, and it's a really hard moment. Just you're completely finished from that turn, looking forward to recovering the wheel, and then you've got to spike the power up even more just to get on the wheel. It's not a great moment, but team time trials are all about suffering, especially today with those time trial helmets in the heat. It's not going to be a fun day for anyone.
No, it certainly isn't. It's very warm. It's Tenney Rotem just latching on the back there. Good sprint by him yesterday. And the next team to come through. Emerging around the corner at the moment. This should be the Kazakh team. Yes, it is. The Kazakh squad, well, look at that. They've got their whole company. That is a very decent, well, collective showing of strength by the Kazakh squad. 6 riders strong, 4th to count. So the clock stops with the 4th rider crossing the line there. But I'd imagine everybody's going to be given at the same time there. So a solid team, a collective performance there from the team from Kazakhstan. Looked like a pretty well-disciplined performance. The time, that remains to be seen. We'll get that to you as soon as we can, using other means.
Yeah, but we can give some time updates at the intermediate, because we've got a what was a third place for Italy with 16:06, which was 10 seconds behind the Netherlands. But then the French team that we see on our screens right now with the white jersey wearer Pierre Thierry posted the quickest time, 7 seconds quicker than the Netherlands. So they are on a really strong ride at the moment.
And here is that team. Super strong ride, and the wearer of the white jersey, the local lad. Well, he was local when we started off in the beginning of this race. And that is Pierre Thierry. There he is, latching just on to the back. Solid performance by him. Where's the white jersey outright? That is the situation. The time to beat for the French squad, who, as Jens was just saying, are up at the first intermediate split. Belgium, remember, were second. They weren't the quickest team at the first intermediate split, but despite them being only 4 riders strong, still managed to best the time of the Netherlands by a singular second. But what can the French do? They have the slight advantage of knowing what the time is to beat. It's only a slight advantage. Still doesn't means perhaps that you can pull just that little bit harder, but you've got to be minded not to split the group. Real discipline. Such a skillful part of our sport, the Team Time Trial. As another squad just wends their way into this final corner. This is the team of Great Britain. Oh, nearly didn't quite overcook that one, but 5 riders strong. Well, GB finished, started without Max Walker. Let's see what time. They weren't the quickest at the intermediate split. Just wait and see what time that the British collective have managed to post. So the Kazakhs posted 30 minutes and 3 seconds. So a solid performance, but it isn't going to trouble the leaderboard. Just over a minute and 10 shy, or slightly more than that. Minute and 20. But yeah, the French team, 15:49 at the first intermediate split is very, very fast indeed. And they continue to ride with a full complement as well. One rider down, shall I say now. Just a few moments ago, they just lost that other rider. Can this man in the white jersey move himself into the yellow jersey? Right now, Jens, they're doing a very good job. We could see a Frenchman in yellow at the end of the day today.
Yeah, if they go as quickly over the second half as over the first half, I think we are going to see a rider in yellow from coming from France. But there's still 2 teams to come at the intermediate, so we'll have to wait to confirm if they're actually the quickest at the intermediate. Britain posting a 28:55 at the finish. So still right up there, but not quite fast enough to get the quickest time. That's a 5th place for Britain. It was interesting to see there in the French team, Mathis Rondel sitting on the back. He was named as one of the climbers in their team, and it looked like he was skipping some turns. So it looks like they're intent on keeping him in the team, getting him across the line as quickly as possible, and not having him work too much, not dropping back. So that's just an interesting thing to note going forward. We didn't really know who their GC leader was going to be, and it does seem like Rondel is a protected rider.
Yeah, good spot there. As we look at the Italian team, their riders also starting to struggle here. It's Alessandro Romelle, the man at the back, who's just missed a turn here. And that will start to slow things down just a little bit when you start to do double turns. And well, actually, it's an important. Can you just explain, Jens, what a double turn is in a situation like this? It's pretty much the same in a breakaway, but doing a double turn is pretty difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, in this case, we saw one of the riders just sitting at the back, and just 3 riders at the front. It just means the workload goes up and up. We've already lost 2 riders here for Italy, and if another rider starts sitting at the back, then it just makes it so much harder for the other riders. And you see, they were working really well together. They don't look to be working that well together right now. We're seeing some gaps. We're seeing 2 riders sitting just on the normal parts of the bars, where not in the aerodynamic position, and that's not a great sign for them looking forward, because they did have a good time at the intermediate. But I'm not sure if you call it. There is a new time at the intermediate. Denmark has gone even quicker than France, just 5 seconds quicker, in fact. So that's a really, really solid time.
Yeah, that's a good performance by the Danes. Now, their best placed rider overall is Carl Frederick Bevort, and that's based on countback. And then they have Simon Dolby as well. So they've got a couple of riders up there in the general classification. A couple of riders fell away after the split yesterday, including the man in the green jersey, Anders Fordegger, who of course was away in that break. Strange circumstances, but that's now consigned to the past, because now coming through into the finish, this is the squad of Israel. Now I do know it's a pretty solid performance. 5 riders there, one just off the back, might just be given a separate time there. That will be very close, but well into the last kilometre of this race, given that the position on the course is the Italian team. And here they are. That's quite a technical little chicane. 4 riders down, posted a good intermediate split, but as we were just discussing, now down to 4, and they are getting a little bit ragged. It's a Pellizzari, Guido Pellizzari, who's suffering at the back here, missing turns, forcing the other riders in front to hit the front again, increasing the fatigue in the legs. Maintaining this sort of speed so much easier when you have opportunities to rest, but when you have to hit the front with little or hardly any opportunity to rest, all that does is diminish the speed at your disposal. But there's nothing you can do when you suffer. It's so difficult at these sorts of high speeds to have any form of recovery. Although Pellizzari now is moving through and sits in third wheel, so it should be a decent time. They're certainly going to beat the time of the Israeli team. They're well inside, but this is the squad that has set the fastest intermediate split. They're renowned for their prowess on the track in the team pursuit formation, but right now they're doing it on the road as well.
Yeah, only 4 riders left though, so that is not an advantage. Just 4 riders. They did start with 6, but they've got a couple really good time trialists. I think it's probably time with the final team has just run through the intermediate check with Poland, posting a 16:38 time, which is them outside of the top 10, but just the top 5. Denmark 15:44, France 15:49. Then the Netherlands and Belgium with 15:56 and 15:58 respectively, and then Italy, sort of the first of that long list of teams very close together with 16:06. But we saw Italy struggling already. I think it's going to probably be between Denmark and France if they don't slow down massively in the second half.
It certainly looks like it. This is the team of Italy coming into the finish. Poland have posted a 16:38 at the first intermediate split, so they are way down. Well, best part of half a minute and more as the Italians swing into the final finishing straight, the short finishing straight. A solid ride by the Italian squad, and the clock stops. Don't think they'll trouble the top part of the leaderboard, but the Danes well on their way now, and there's only one team behind them. That is the team of the Poles. But Denmark into the second phase of this team time trial, and as you say, 4 riders strong. We've seen another team do it. We've seen Belgium. They are still the fastest team by 1 solitary second, so it can be done. But it means the riders on the front just going to have to spend that little bit more. And you can notice the rider on the front now, I can't quite identify, is doing one heck of a pull, isn't he? That's a one long turn on the front.
Yeah, as I said, there's a couple really strong time trialists in here. We've got especially Gustav Wang and Carl Fredrik Brevoort. Those are probably the best time trialists in there. Just looking back through those results, you'll see a World Junior Time Trial Championship for Gustav Wang in 2021. That took place in Belgium, and Brevoort as well. One really strong time trialist. He was 4th in the Junior Time Trial Championships in 2021. So also a second year under 23. Those 2 riders just pulling this team along, but the others who are still in here, I assume, still doing really well. We see Simon Dalby seems to be at the back. He's their GC leader, and I assume he's not going to be doing too much work. He's more of a small climber, not a huge engine on the flat, but they'll want to keep him in that team for the finish, not to lose any time, and maybe even to gain some time on the other GC contenders.
Exactly. Well, here we go. This is the Italian team. They finished, I think it's in 8th place. Totally and utterly spent as one of the other Italians who was dropped by his teammates crosses the line a further couple of minutes back. Only 3 more teams to finish, remember. It is the team of the French who set a very quick intermediate split, but not as quick as Denmark. And then the final team on the road, the team of Michael Pomorski. They will be the last team to finish. This should be the squad of France with the white jersey coming in to the final corner. of Pierre Thierry. What can the home team do today? The clock stops. Thierry crosses the line, the first of the French contingent. 44, I think that was. So that could be the lead. We'll have to get confirmation of that. So that was a 44 that was posted by the French team.
Well, if it was in fact a 28:44, that's the exact same time as the Belgian team. So that's going to be really, really tight. We did get the time of Italy now, 29:03, which is not good enough for a place in the top 5. They have probably lost some time in that second half when we saw them just losing that perfect cooperation at the end.
Well, it's a 28:26 by the French, so the French have blown the time of the Belgians out of the water. They continued the incursion into the best time and actually went even quicker, and there it is. Congratulations all round for the young French team here. The best time, 28:26, Jens. That, all things considered, is an absolutely superb time.
Yeah, it's a bunch quicker. It's, I think, 18 seconds quicker than the Belgian time, if my maths are correct. And I should say I'm not the best at maths, so that we'll have to wait to confirm that. But it's definitely the quickest time on the road right now. But we're still waiting for that Danish team, also for the Polish team. But the Polish team quite far outside the quickest time at the intermediate. So we're looking for the Danish team to see if they can still beat that time of the French riders.
Well, there it is, 28:26. For France, beating the time of the Belgians, which stood for so long, 28:44. But as Jens was saying, we still have the mighty Danes out on the course, who set the fastest intermediate split by 5 seconds. They're the fastest at 16.5 Ks, 15:44. 5 seconds quicker than France with a 15:49, and it won't be too long before the Danes come round the corner. There is the slow motion replay of the man in the white jersey for France, Pierre Thierry, leading round the corner. In fact, the best young rider in the race is Michael Pomorski, but the French rider keeping it warm for him. Will he be the outright leader of this race, or will one of the Danes take it? It's going to be very close. There are several Danes at 6 seconds, but no doubt about the team that look like they're going to be up there. Well, this is it. This is the Danish squad coming into the finish. They're having to ease a little bit to make sure that their final rider there, Dolby, is in the mix. It's still Dolby at the back, as you said, the smaller climber struggling. He's there or thereabouts, and the clock stops now.
Yeah, we're just going to have to wait for the confirmation of that time. They're going to be very close.
Yeah, it's a 26. So it looks like it's the same time. Or unless they were just saying it's the same time as the French. So we'll wait and see. Oof, it's very, very close. So all I keep hearing is 28:26. So this is pretty tense. Again, apologies for the lack of graphics on the screen. Oh, no, it is 28:13. So the Danish have beaten the French team by 13 seconds, Jens. So unless something dramatic changes on the road, the Polish team well out of it at the first intermediate split. We're going to see a new maillot jaune, and the stage winners are the team from Denmark. Cooling down here in these hot conditions. What a ride by the Danes.
Yeah, it does look like they've gone very deep, but kudos to them that they've posted the quickest time. That's a stage win for Denmark. Just seeing that confirmed right now. We'll have to wait for the official results, but this seems like Denmark has won the team time trial in a decent margin as well, 13 seconds ahead of France. Belgium in third, and then the rest of the top 10 has just slid off our screens. But yeah, not too big gaps though. I think we expected a little bit more gaps across the road. Of course, we still got one team out on the road with the Polish, but as this is looking, they didn't have a great time already at the intermediate, and this is not looking great. You really don't want to see such a big gap in the middle of your team in the middle of a team time trial. So I think we can probably safely say that Denmark has won the team time trial, but we'll just have to wait until Poland has crossed the line to know that for sure.
Yep, they're certainly having to nurse the yellow jersey. Michael Pomorski struggling just a little bit there. This is the moment that the Danes rounded the final corner into the finishing straight, nursing the man at the back there, Simon Dolby. You've identified as the man for the general classification, but look how much it has taken out of the team. It is one of the hardest disciplines out there, but they have taken the win. I think it's fair to say, as we look at the GB team, stripped to the waist, tried to cool down as best as they can. The race not over yet for the team from Poland, but they were nowhere near, and as we saw, they're starting to struggle just a little bit, although the yellow jersey now, Pomorski, moving through to the front. Still a special day for the Polish team after disappointment in the sprint yesterday. Wearing the maillot jaune in the Tour de l'Avenir for any rider at this stage of their career it's an important day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great 2 days for Pomorski. First getting a top 5 in the stage on the first stage in that breakaway, and then getting the yellow jersey on comeback in the second stage. But now this it looks like he's going to lose the jersey. We'll have to wait for confirmation who is going to take it. Probably, well, it's definitely one of the Danish riders. Haven't quite seen who it's going to be.
It might be Dolby. He is I think he's the best placed just on countbacks at the same time, or it could be Carl Fredrik Bevort, who's 13th overall, but this is purely on countback on stage placings. So we shall have to see. Several of the Danes on exactly the same time, as you'd expect so early on this race, as the Polish squad head through to the finish. And Radoslav Fradček, Matthias Gadjelvic, Michał Pomorski, and Mikolaj Skulk, Kamil Sichma, and Kepa Kwemiec. Now that is the lineup for the squad. 5 riders left coming in to the last kilometre or so here. This is that drag up to the line in the centre of Isudu. It's quite nasty. Just goes on and on before they get that little bit of a right turn. And there's another one of the Danish riders who was dropped a little bit earlier on. He should finish safely within the time limit. It's about to be caught, not quite, by the Polish team, with the yellow jersey on the shoulders of Michał Pomorski. But he won't be in the yellow tonight. It will be one of the Danes, but still a battling, solid performance by the Polish squad. We've had a good opening couple of stages here in the Tour de l'Avenir. A day in yellow, couple of top 5 performances, but the team of the day still desperately trying to lower their core body temperatures here. Denmark, the winners of stage 3 of the Tour de l'Avenir, and there is confirmation. They take the win with a searing time of 28.13, 13 seconds quicker than France. And then Belgium in third with a 28.44. And then we have the Netherlands, Australia and Switzerland. So a good day for Denmark.
Really good day for Denmark, and I mean, of course, the stage win is a really important thing in Tour de l'Avenir. But we're also looking at the overall with Simon Dalby, who finished second in the peace race, for instance. So he's going to be someone to look at. Here we see the green jersey coming across the line. I think that must be Anders Foldager, I think.
It was indeed, yeah, Foldager. Yeah. So we'll be still in that green jersey heading into tomorrow, but we can confirm that the winners of stage 3 of the Tour de l'Avenir, the team time trial, 26.5 Ks, won by Denmark, ahead of France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Australia, Switzerland, Great Britain, Austria, Germany, and rounding out the top 10, Italy. So 50 seconds separating the top 10, so narrowly matched. And no rider that finishes with the team of 4 will actually lose more than 2 minutes, but pretty tight at the top there. So not really, when you think about the distance there and the fact there's under a minute that separate the top 10 teams here, they're actually, relatively speaking, evenly matched here, Jens, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And just counting up, I think there are 7 teams who are going to make use of that 2-minute rule, but all the other teams finishing within 2 minutes of the winners. So not too big a gap between any of the riders, really. It's just a couple of the nations losing more time than that. But we will have to wait for the results to see if any of the drop riders are actually outside of the time limit, because it was a really quick time trial. I don't think it's going to go well for anyone who's been dropped by their team. We saw a couple of riders dropped coming in quite far behind their respective teams. So that's something to look for tonight when we see the results, and we'll probably tell you if anyone's finished outside of the time limit tomorrow during the broadcast.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be nervous reading for some riders. There was one or two that we saw that were there or thereabouts, given that time. So there's going to be about 7 minutes, give or take, maybe just over. As another rider finishes. Looks like a rider from Poland on the road bike. Again, he was about 3 or 4 minutes behind his team. So the Danes sit on the sidewalk. Quite often, our sport there's a veneer to our sport. There's this romantic veneer, but then it's a sport of the people as well, isn't it? Here they are, just sat at the side of the road on the curb, getting changed. I do love how accessible our sport is, you know, and these young riders moving up through the ranks, sleeping in dormitories. I've seen some posts on Instagram and on Twitter from some of the riders in the teams. That is the way it is. It's interesting, but it's the way you learn your trade, isn't it? And it's where I think you understand whether or not you want to become a pro road rider.
Yeah, it was Tibor Del Gosso, the Dutch rider, who posted on Twitter a couple pictures of his the sleeping arrangement that the Dutch team had to deal with, and it really didn't look that great. But that's something you get quite often in these smaller races. You know, it's not a professional race. It's not a race where the teams can just bring all the food trucks and all the just a team chef. They don't really have that here. It's just living off of the generosity of the organizers, and that tends to, you know, they don't tend to sleep in 5-star hotels, let's say that. But that's part of the cycling journey.
It is part of the cycling journey. It's I've slept in many dormitories over the years, but it's the same for everybody. The same treatment is given to all of these riders who, as you say, are taking the first steps on their professional careers. Many of these riders, especially for some of these bigger teams, these more well-known nations, with real depth in talent, we will see these riders riding the Grand Tours, the classics, the big races of the future. And it's wonderful to get this insight that we're treated to of how raw this sport is at this level as well. But no, a solid performance from Denmark. Still waiting to see which of their number is going to be moving into the Maillot Jaune ahead of the next stage of this race. And we're moving into the hills tomorrow. We head from Arreau-Grande to Évaux-les-Bains for stage 4, 150 Ks. And unfortunately, we're getting a look at the Belgian team with that unfortunate crash into the barriers in the last few metres. The Belgian team were given the time of the third rider to cross the line. Still haven't managed to identify who that rider was, but fingers crossed he's okay and he's got some medical treatment, but he did manage to cross the line.
Yeah, I think, not really trying to guess anyone, but I think it was Alex Segaert who crashed out on that final corner. I'm still not quite sure how it happened there, but we did see a couple teams coming in, sort of not taking the outside line, as you see the French riders coming in here. Just taking the outside line, cutting into the corner. A lot of teams staying on the inside, and that makes the corner a lot bit more difficult. And saw a couple of riders really struggling on the outside of that turn, and just seems like the time trial position maybe messed up their vision, and they didn't swing out to the outside in time to take that corner properly.
Yeah, and as you say, they were carrying a lot of pace. The only team that we saw that came to grief. Still a very solid performance by the Belgians on the day. But as I was saying, we move on to a real punchy stage tomorrow. There are 3 categorised climbs, certainly no mountains. We have a 3rd category climb at half distance, and then a couple of 4th category climbs on the run-in to the line. But we finish in Évaux-les-Bains. It is a 150.1 kilometre stage. You never know in this, it does actually finish up a short climb as well. So it is a hill top finish, certainly not a mountain top finish. But make sure you join us again slightly earlier tomorrow, 1300 hours British summertime. So that's 1400 hours. Well, here we go. Anders Foldager.
Yeah, fuck. The guys rode so fast, so fast. I couldn't keep in the wheels, so they were amazing, the other guys. So yeah, I just had to stay inside of the time limit.
And Yellow Jersey for your team, huh?
Yeah, I think we have the 3 jerseys now, 2 stage wins. So yeah, I will call it a good start.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of these very short interviews. So there we go. Anders Foldager, he will still be in green at the end of today, moving into tomorrow's stage. Still no indication as we get another slow motion replay of the Danish team coming into the last few metres of their time trial, which proved to be the quickest. Still, we are not sure of which rider that has been given the maillot jaune. So as soon as we get that, before we go off air, we'll pass you that information. Of course, there's confirmation of at the stage again. 28 minutes and 13 seconds. 13 seconds quicker than France. And the long-time leaders, Belgium, ultimately had to settle for third place. The Netherlands, Australia, Switzerland, Gran-Bretagne, Great Britain, Austria, Germany and Italy. That is your top 10. As we move neatly into stage 4, we travel a little bit further south. Don't travel too much further east or west tomorrow. We due south for the start town in Aigues-Rondes, and then we wend our way in a southwesterly direction towards Evere-les-Bains. Make sure you join us then for the next stage. We'll stay on air just in case we do get confirmation of who is our new race leader. But a completely different parkour tomorrow, and another stage, I think it's fair to say, Jens, that is going to promote and be the catalyst for some super aggressive racing based on what we've seen so far on the road stages.
Yeah, it's a stage finish that we've already seen in one of the smaller professional races, Tour de Limousin in 2020. It had the same finish. That was won by Luca Wackerman in a late attack. Big group sprint behind though, so it's quite a tough climb, but it's not quite steep enough for huge differences. But I think, given the sort of racing we've already seen this week, I think we're going to see some aggressive racing and probably not quite a group sprint finish. So we're going to see the punchers come out to play. Probably not quite so different from the sprint names that we've already seen. But a couple of those sprinters will find that finish really hard. Looking more at the likes of Francesco Bussato, that type of rider is a slightly more punchy sprinter to survive, or of course a late attacker could also make it to the line tomorrow.
It certainly looks like it's set up for something like that. We could be completely wrong, of course. We've already had a first bunch sprint of the race yesterday, and that was the only stage that was expected to be a bunch sprint, although there were numerous attacks on the run-in, and a day that was punctuated by the maillot jaune being up the road we just spoke to. I'm wondering if Anders Foldager potentially, Jens, was maybe thinking, well, it's too late now to change things, but I'd imagine he had pretty sore legs after yesterday's foray off the front.
Yeah, he did say in the interview that he was feeling the legs after yesterday. So arguably the Danish team could have gone even quicker if he hadn't have done that. But they invested yesterday trying to win another stage. Didn't work out for them, but they've won the stage today. But that also did mean that the other riders were mostly sitting back and relaxing in the peloton yesterday. Although we did see some more attacks of their riders yesterday towards the end of the stage. But yeah, it didn't cost them too much in the end. They still won the stage today, so kudos to them.
Indeed. No, good day for the Danes. One of the riders will take at least a 30-second lead in. Remember, no time bonuses in the Tour de l'Avenir, either at the stage finishes or at any intermediate sprints. The intermediate sprints solely carry points towards the green jersey competition, and the first of those sprints tomorrow comes at 31 k's in. We'll then have climbs at 77, 123 and 140. The last categorized climb tomorrow comes with only 10 kilometers to go, although, as Jens was mentioning, there is a nasty kick up to the line. Whether it will split things considerably, we don't know. Well, there we go. It is Carl Fredrik Bevort who moves into the lead ahead of his teammate Simon Dalby. So that is confirmation of the new maillot jaune in the Tour de l'Avenir heading into stage 3. Carl Fredrik Bevort of Denmark leads his teammate Simon Dalby just ahead of Pierre Thierry of France. Then we have Rondel Huens, French, also there too. Vlad van Mechelen is there in 6th place at 31 seconds. And then we have Rederink of the Netherlands, Christian of Switzerland, and then 2 Australians, McKellar and Murridge, rounding out the top 10. So that is the situation heading into the final, well, it's not the final stage, sorry, the 4th stage of the Tour de l'Avenir. We have a new maillot jaune, and we have some Danes to speak to by the looks of things.
Just a word on each of you.
Yeah, about the. Yeah, I think we all pretty done after a hard team time trial. It was warm and it was hard to really find the top speed in these conditions.
Yeah, this is a huge victory for Denmark. This is a goal that we knew we had, and we're just really satisfied to complete the goal and to help Simon, our GC guy, get in a great position before the mountains.
Yeah, it's a yellow for me. But yeah, just overall we're just very happy with the performance and yeah, to gain some time against the other GC competitors, and yeah, we just drove very fast today, so it's good.
Well, there we go. That was it. Interesting point of view there from our team, and also nice to have a word with the brand new maillot jaune, Carl Frederick Bivort. And there it is again. Bivort leads Dolby. Dolby being the general classification hope for Denmark, and Thierry running out the top three as we head into stage 4 of the Tour de l'Avenir. Make sure you join us tomorrow at 1400 hours Central European time. But meanwhile, from me, Matt Stevens, and from Jens Decker in Usedom, it's au revoir. We'll see you tomorrow.